Well, good Friday morning, New Heart Church family. Pastor Matt with you on this Friday and doing a video, second video this week for you. And we are getting close to the end of 2022, moving to 2023. Hard to believe, isn't it? But it's true. It's getting there. And I'm sure you've noticed that a lot of magazines, newspapers, internet articles all focus on people and events that made the news this year, folks that passed away this year. A lot of these publications also talk about what things are going to be like in the future. I remember there was an article in 1967 that said that by the turn of the century, which for us now is like 20 years ago, but the technology will have taken over so much of our life that the average worker will work 22 hours a week. They will only work about 27 weeks per year. And their biggest problem is, what do I do with all my leisure time? Yeah, that hasn't quite worked out the way that I think the writers of that article might have figured it was going to. In fact, most of us have so very busy lives, and we're always, even when we go to eat with someone, we finish the meal, and it's like, well, listen, I got to run, but it's been great spending time with you, and they get up and out the door. So I thought perhaps I would share a verse of scripture this morning that you probably are familiar with and probably are aware of, but some thoughts from it. It comes from Ephesians 5, verses 15 and 17. Paul says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. A couple things out of this verse. First of all, our time is very limited. The psalmist writes that the length of our days is 70 or so years. If we have the strength, they pass quickly and they fly away. Now, I realize for some of the younger folk that may be looking this morning, 70 or 80 years seems like a long time. I remember when I thought 40 was ancient. The passage of time is all kind of relative, right? For a teenage boy and girl sitting in a cart, an hour seems to pass so quickly. It's like, oh man, has it already been that time? I gotta get you in. For mom and dad waiting in the house, that hour seems to just seems to be like an eternity. The truth is, Scripture admonishes us that we should not count on tomorrow because tomorrow may not ever come. All we have is right now, and so we should recognize that the days we have right now are the ones we need to be investing in, the ones that we need to be purposeful in. And so we need to recognize that our time here on earth is limited. Even if it is 80 or 90 years old, it's still limited, relatively speaking. And then Paul says, make the most of every opportunity. The psalmist also says in Psalm 90 that we should number our days so that we gain a heart of wisdom. Jesus reminds us that Satan is a robber and a thief, and one of the things he likes to rob from us is our time, because time's very precious. Time's a very valuable commodity to us. A lot of people waste a lot of time doing a lot of things that have no productivity at all to them. They waste their time worrying. They waste their time sinning. They waste their time doing work that doesn't matter, that's not important. I'm not saying that work is not important. It is important, but sometimes the things that we think are important aren't really all that important. Richard Swenson, a medical doctor, wrote a book that talks about the maladies of our time and anxiety and stress. He calls it overload, and says that most people are just plain overloaded. They're overloaded with commitments. They're overloaded with their possessions. They're overloaded with taking on too much work. They're overloaded by information. Good grief, we have an information overload with the internet and with social media and all the rest of that. And I go on and on and on. But it's important for us to redeem the time that we have, recognize that it's short, and redeem the time that we have. Count our days so that we might have a heart of wisdom. And then Paul says, don't be foolish, but understand what God's will is for you, what the Lord's will is for you. I think when you're going to do that, you need to establish some priorities. You need to say to yourself, first and foremost, where is God in my pantheon of priorities? Is he at the top of the list? Is he second at the list? Is he third at the list? And some of that is reflected in how we handle every day and how we handle every week. Are we in church whenever we can be? Are we praying every day? Are we reading scripture every day? Are we faithful with the resources that God has entrusted to us as stewards? Um, are we spending time with our family? Are we spending time with the people that are important to us? And are we giving all that we can give without overgiving to our work efforts and to our employers who are paying us money and so forth? All those things. We establish our priorities, and then we learn to live for today, and we filter those priorities into what things are today. There's a great story written by Gary Freeman that talks about a young girl who goes to college and she just hates it, but she says, you know what, if I can just persevere here and get married and then have a family, I'll be much more fulfilled. And so she sticks with it. She goes to classes. She graduates from colleges. She meets a nice young man. They get married. They start to have a family. But then she realizes that having children is a lot of work. And she says, well, if I can just get these kids raised, then I will be able to relax and enjoy life. Well, just about the time the kids are ready to graduate from high school, the husband says, you know what, we don't have enough money to pay for college. You're going to have to get a job. And she realizes he's correct. And so she gets a job and she hates it. But she says to herself, I'll just keep doing this until I get these kids out of college. And once I get these kids out of college, then I can rest and relax. And finally, the day comes when the kids are graduate and she's ready to walk into her employer's office and says, I quit. And he says, wait a minute. Before you do that, you need to recognize if you just spend another 8 years here, you'll be eligible for our pension plan. You'll be a fully funded pension plan. You'll have a nice retirement income that comes in. And so she thinks about it and she decides, yeah, she'll go ahead and work those last 8 years, even though she doesn't like the job and doesn't like what she's doing, but she does it to get the pension plan. And then finally, she retires, her husband retires, they sell their house, they buy a little retirement cottage, and when the weather's nice, they sit out on the front porch, look through the family album of photographs, and remember how things used to be so nice. Uh, Someone once said, life is what happens when you're making plans to do something else. And that's probably true. We're getting ready to go into another year. We're only going to have a certain number of hours for that year. We're going to have 8,760 hours. We need to decide how to spend those, what our priorities are, and how that's going to happen. So as we go into this new year, here's my prayer for you, that you'll have enough happiness to keep you sweet and enough trials to keep you strong, enough sorrow to keep you human, enough hope to keep you happy, enough failure to keep you humble, but enough success to keep you eager, and enough friends to give you comfort, enough wealth to meet your needs, enough enthusiasm to make you look forward to tomorrow, and enough determination to make every day better than the day before. Paul tells the Romans, he says, the hour has come for us to wake up from our slumber because our salvation is nearer now than ever before. So let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. I pray that the Lord will help you to use the 8,760 hours that will be given to you in 2023 the wisest way you can for Him and for His glory. I hope you'll join us on Sunday. We won't have Sunday school. We'll just have an 11 o'clock service. It'll be a John Wesley style covenant service, and I trust you'll come and be a part of that as well. And then we'll start to get back on our regular schedule once we get through the first of the year. But God bless you. Be safe if you're out on a New Year's Eve event tomorrow night. Be safe, be careful, and we'll look forward to seeing you Sunday and talking to you next week. God bless, and I'll say it first. Happy New Year.